Hello and welcome to a Wednesday edition of the Osceola Seminole Sidelines. My name is Pat Burnham. I'm joined today by Eric Llewellyn, the voice of FSU baseball, and Bob Ferrante. And if you're listening in Tallahassee, I just want to give you a warning. I just got a text from my brother, my oldest niece from his family anyway. Just got a driver's license and is hitting the roads of Tallahassee about right now, and I'm sure he is making her drive home from said driver's test. And so congratulations to Lindsay. We're going to go pick up her car, I believe, in Lake City or somewhere tomorrow or Friday. We have not got the itinerary for that. But if you see a very nervous father sitting, he looks like a Burnham on the right-hand side of the car, it's my brother, because Lindsay is scared to drive. We're going to teach her.
Well, if he's letting her drive, he must not be too nervous.
Yes, yeah, he's going to make her drive. I think I can tell you that for sure. Guys, how's it going, Bob? I know we were talking beforehand. Speaking of driving, you're getting ready to do a little bit of driving, and congratulations to your daughter, Emily, who just got into Florida State, and we'll start there shortly. And you tell people where you're going and how much driving you're going to make her do.
Yeah, we're heading out west. We're looking forward to it. A little bit of a road trip before Emily starts college. You know, Child's graduation on Saturday. Ran into some good friends. Ran to Kez McCorvey. His boy was graduating. I don't think I saw Lulu, but I saw Braden graduate and walk across the stage. So good time seeing friends have their sons and daughters graduate this time of year.
I also ran into Kez, and I saw Emily walk across the stage as well. So, I have to go and watch my son move into the dorm tonight for orientation at FSU.
That's right, because your son graduated this year as well too, right, Lou?
He did, yes.
Boy, I remember when I first moved back to town. And I know it's the time, it goes so fast. But I remember you posting pictures on Facebook, and he was just, I moved back in 2013. So how old would that have made your son, Eric?
He would have been 6.
Yeah. It's hard to believe these kids grow up.
Well, I had the realization, I guess it was a week or two ago. So I started my first year calling baseball games on the radio was 2007. That was Brian Henry's senior year. My son was born on Brian Henry's birthday, Brian Henry's senior year. And Brian is now the head coach at Tallahassee State College and getting inducted in the FSU Hall of Fame. My kid's off to college, and I feel really, really old on all fronts there.
Yeah, well, it's every time I look in the mirror, I see more gray. I get it. And we just went and spent the week at the beach last week with my sister's her girls, because they just graduated. One of them graduated from college, and the rest of them are going to graduate soon or doing their own thing. And it was the last official family vacation. So yeah, and we used to go to the beach every year for years and years and years. So and it's hard to believe those girls are now out of college. But yeah. Life passes by pretty fast, and one thing that stays consistent, guys, is Florida State is always in the baseball regional, always hosting a regional. So it feels like a normal spring or summer as Florida State gets ready to host Bethune-Cookman, Mississippi State, and Northeastern. Lou, I get sidetracked a lot on some of these conversations. Number one, I just happened to catch Thunder and Lightning last night on ESPN, which is the Rafael Palmeiro, Will Clark documentary, which was just awesome. I
remember watching two of them at Mississippi State.
Yeah, I was a kid when they were in college, and that was, you remember watching those World Series games. And then now, this has nothing to do with the regional or anything else, but I was also got into another baseball documentary. It's called In Spirit. And it's about the South Carolina baseball team the year they won the national championship. Now, if you're a sports documentary person and baseball person, go watch In Spirit. It'll have you crying. It's one of the best documentaries they did. As a former South Carolina baseball player from that team that won the national championship actually produced it. Of course, now I know Ray Tanner. Ray was the head baseball coach at South Carolina when I was a GA there in the late 90s, so it's a little bit closer to home to me. But anyway, if you're a baseball person, documentary person, In Spirit, I think it was 2008, 2009. I can't remember exactly what year they won the national championship there at South Carolina. But anyway, it's got me fired up for regional baseball because both of them have the College World Series storylines. But all right, so first of all, Lou, are you getting plenty of rest for your voice? You could have a very, very busy weekend.
Well, yeah, I am. I didn't even do the last game Florida State played, so I have an extra day's rest, you could say, sort of like a pitcher. I got held out a day because of my kid's graduation. So
okay.
Missed the game Saturday. I done 628 straight games before the game on Saturday. So. But happily missed that one to watch my kid walk across the stage there.
Yeah, well, that is a legitimate excuse, and no one would blame you. Now I know there's a part of you that's going to wish the streak had extended because that is kind of cool. All right, so I'm surprised they didn't cancel the game. B, who filled in for you?
Jack Cavavit. He does women's basketball, and he did a fine job. I got to listen to a little bit of it. I didn't get to watch any of the game, and it's now Wednesday, and I still haven't even gone back and looked at the box score from that game on Saturday. So my knowledge of how that game went was outside of the probably little increments that might have added up to about 30 minutes total. It's not great, but I need to review that a little bit before we play on Friday. But I was literally getting on a plane and heading back to Durham during the 9th inning. Okay. And there was no Wi-Fi on the flight from here to Charlotte. So I got on the plane. It's the 9th inning. And as we took off, I lost the signal. And I didn't know what happened until we landed in Charlotte. So, and then I ended up getting back to the hotel at 12:30 in the morning and turning right around and flying back with the team at noon. Yeah.
Well, so I'm assuming you're jonesing for some baseball now.
I am indeed. I'm ready to go.
Well, listen, you got Florida State's hosting Mississippi State, Bethune-Cookman, and Northeastern. It's funny, I didn't even realize I've been to Northeastern's campuses, which is in downtown Boston. You don't even think there's a way they could play baseball. So when I got sent the information, I was like, no, Bob means Northwestern. Bob's got to be Northwestern. So I was like, all right, so I need to look up Mike Glavin and make sure he's the head coach at Northwestern. And certainly it was Northeastern. And then, of course, you got Bethune-Cookman from right down the road. And then you got an interesting situation at Mississippi State who fired their coach 11 games before the season was over. They went on a 9-2 run under assistant coach, and yet here they are in the regional. And when I looked at it at face value, guys, and this is why we have you guys on here, I'm kind of like, well, shoot. Florida State's going to breeze through this thing. You got a Mississippi State team that's in flux with a coach. You've got two teams that Florida State should be better than in Bethune-Cookman and Northeastern. Tell me why this is going to be why you're worried, Eric, and why you're worried, Bob, and the challenges of this particular of these teams that Florida State is going to face in the regional.
Well, I'd say this about Northeastern. They're 49-8 overall, and they've won 27 straight games. They haven't lost a game since early April. This is the last time they lost a game. I think I want to say April 5th, I believe, April 6th, somewhere in there, last time they lost. And they, you look at what they've been lately, recent history, they've made the NCAA tournament now 4 of the last 8 years. 4 of the last 7 years. We didn't have one in 2020. So they went in 18, 21, 23, and 25. They seem to be, other than 18, they're on an odd-numbered year run getting into the postseason. But like I said, they've won 27 straight games. They can really pitch. You look at their numbers, an ERA below 3. Another number that jumps off the page at you, they've stolen 193 bases.
Yeah.
I think Louisville was the most prolific base stealing team that we played this year. They were around 150. So this is a team in Northeastern that has 40 more steals, 40 plus more steals than Louisville does. And they don't play the toughest schedule. They're in the CAA, and that makes it difficult to have a super tough schedule from a RPI, strength of schedule, all of those metrics standpoint. They're still 22 in the RPI. And in that 27-game winning streak, they've got 2 wins against Kansas State. Kansas State is the 3 seed out in Austin. They've got a win in there against Boston College in that string of games as well. So there are some teams, some competition that they have played throughout that tells you they're probably a pretty good baseball team.
Yeah, and UNCW, I believe, is who they beat for the championship of the CAA, and UNCW has made it deep into I think they've made it a couple super regionals in the last 5-10 years, so they are a good program. And of course, I think when you say stolen bases, I think everyone has a nightmare going back to the Louisville game, where they stole 14 in a game. Obviously, we have not seen that kind of game pop up again, and I know you said that there are some things that you can do to kind of correct that between the pitcher and the catcher. And listen, it looks like based on everything that Link Jarrett said, it looks like Jackson West is going to be the guy at defending these base runners if they have to play Northeastern, right? I mean, we don't even know if they're going to have to play Northeastern, but it is a possibility. So what stands out to you guys about Bethune-Cookman, who Florida State will play at 3 p.m. on Friday if the weather allows for it?
Well, I think one of the things that you look at with Bethune-Cookman that really, again, jumps off the page to me, Edwin Sanchez is probably the guy we'd see on the mound, I would think. He has not been their ace all year, but here in the last couple of weeks of the season, he's kind of taken over that role. And not only has he taken over that role, he's really been the go-to guy. You go back to May 10th. He started on May 10th through 94 pitches. That was a Saturday. He came back the following Thursday. So on 2 days short rest through 95 pitches. Then he started the opener in the SWAC tournament and threw 115 pitches on May 21st. And then started the final against FAMU on May the 25th and threw 98 pitches. So you're talking about in 15 days, he started 4 games and threw 94 or more pitches each time. Now you're talking about Sunday, so we're going to have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So 4 days rest after turning around on 3 days rest. Again, they haven't announced it yet. I would expect with what they've done with him in the last couple of weeks to see him again. And, he's got good numbers. He's got an ERA just above 3. He started 16 games on the year, good strikeout numbers, good walks and hits per inning pitch numbers. So, again, he looks like he's one of those guys that can kind of come in there and take over a game. And that's really, these 1-4 contests, a lot of times that's what can get you beat. And I remember my second year doing radio, 2008, Bucknell comes in. They had a guy pitch the game of his life. He shut out a team that hit 350 on the season, one of the most prolific offensive teams in FSU baseball history, with Buster Posey and Tony Delmonico and Jack Rye and Dennis Gwynn. I couldn't think of his first name there for a minute. But that was a great lineup top to bottom. Stuart Tapley was a freshman, hit like 382 that year. Jason Stidham was out there. And Tyler Holt was a freshman on that team and was the leadoff hitter. And he shut that team out in that first game. So you always have to worry about that in that 1-4 game. And the other thing you have to make sure you do is you don't give them the game. You don't do things, make big mistakes that give them things. You've got to make them earn what they get. So those are really the two things that can kill you. And certainly he is a guy that can come out there based on what I've seen, again, not having seen him pitch, but based on the numbers that can come out and be effective enough to take over a game if he's really having one of those days.
Yeah, and another thing that stood out to me is I was reading Bob's scouting report. 7 of their 9 starters offensively are hitting over 300. Now, obviously, the pitching the caliber of pitchers they should face against Florida State should be a little bit different. Now, Lou, you've watched a heck of a lot more baseball than I have. I think obviously they're a Division I baseball team, but conference is a lot different. How big is in football, there's a huge gap between a Florida State football team and a Bethune-Cookman football team. Can you explain? I mean, obviously it's not, I don't think there's as big a disparity probably between baseball programs, but still a significant disparity. Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, I think I don't think it's as big as football. I think you're right there. I think, you've got a couple of things going on right now that has kind of changed that dynamic. Where we used to have 40 and then before that 50 rounds. And then even before 50-round drafts, we had drafts that continued until everybody declined to pick a player. So you go back to the first year of the Tampa Bay Rays and the Arizona Diamondbacks, I think that draft went 98 rounds. Well, when a team said, no, I'm done, they were done. But if a team wanted to keep drafting players, they could keep drafting players. So now they put a limit on it. They said, we'll go 50. Then they dropped it to 40. And then after COVID, when they eliminated the short season minor league teams, they dropped down to 20 rounds. But what that has done is that's thrown a bunch of players into the college baseball pool that maybe wouldn't have been there before. There were guys getting drafted in the 38th round that signed and went on to minor league baseball. And you have a lot of those guys that now are going to college and playing college baseball. So I do think that while there is a talent disparity between, the major schools and the mid-majors, I think it's a lot less of a disparity now than it would have been maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. The other thing you have going on, too, is with the transfer portal, everybody focuses on guys, a guy like an Alex Lodis or a guy like a Drew Farreau, who make that jump from a mid-major up to a major school. So Lodis came from University of North Florida. Farreau came from University of Central Florida, and I don't even know that you can call them a mid-major now since they're in the Big 12.
Right.
So everybody focuses on that, and they feel like that's a big disadvantage for the smaller schools. But what they don't talk much about is the players that are going into major schools and maybe don't get the playing time that they think they should be getting their first year or their first couple of years, and then they drop down a level. So you've got a lot of players then at this mid-major level that have spent some time in the ACC or the SEC or the Big 12 at some of the bigger schools and playing against tougher competition. So I think that has narrowed the gap then. All of those factors together have narrowed the gap between the Florida States and the Bethune-Cookmans or, other schools.
All right, so before we get to Mississippi State and Northeastern and what the challenges they may present, Link decided to go with the 3 p.m. I guess he got a choice of what time they wanted their game to start. He chose 3 p.m. Do you think there was a rhyme and reason for that? It's just more recovery time for relievers or the team in general if the game goes off on time? What do you think the rationale between picking and what's going to be a very hot, humid Friday afternoon first pitch?
Well, I think the heat and humidity is one of the things that he's thinking there, and he's thinking that a team in Florida might be better conditioned for that than a team coming from Boston or a team maybe not obviously a team coming from Daytona, but maybe a team coming from Boston. The other side, and I think this is the bigger factor in that, is he does not like, with weather being what it is this time of the year, he doesn't like playing the late game on the first day of the tournament because he doesn't want that 2 or 3 or 4 hour lightning delay. And we get these lightning delay. I can remember one day we sat around there 6-7 hours and it never rained once. It was all lightning. We just kept having lightning strikes within the radius, within that 30-minute period, which just keeps resetting the 30-minute clock. And you can sit around all day there, and he just doesn't want to. He doesn't want, like in this case, we're playing at 3 and 7:30. If you get that 7:30 game and you have a 2 or 3 hour lightning delay either during the first game or before your game starts, or as you're trying to start your game, all of a sudden it's 10:30, 11 o'clock, and you're trying to start a baseball game, and he just doesn't want to put his team into that position. So that's, I think, the main reason why he likes to play the early game on Friday.
Yeah, and listen, the chances of rain on Friday night are pretty good right now. My weather app says 70% chance of rain in Tallahassee on Friday, with the bulk of that expected in the evening hour. So hopefully Florida State can get in.
And the other side of that is now what happens if you get delayed, and now you get to a certain point, they're not going to start a game.
Right.
And you have to turn around and start a game on Saturday.
And play two.
And then you've got to play a loser's bracket game after that. And then you've got to turn around and, both of those teams involved are going to end up playing 2 games that day. And again, that's something I think he wants to try to avoid at all costs.
All right. How do you guys see him? He changed the pitching rotation in the ACC tournament, went from Arnold to Mendez, and then was going to use Vellini on Sunday if they had gotten there, and obviously they did not. But how do you think he'll stay with that change and go Arnold on Friday and then Mendez on Saturday, or does he go back to Vellini on Saturday?
No, I think he's probably either going to go with Vellini or Mendez on Friday. I think the fact that he started Mendez but then brought Vellini in relief in that game puts him in a position where he's really got his choice. If he wants to go with Arnold and he thinks that Arnold has the best matchup for that particular team, he can go that route. If he wants to go with either Mendez or Vellini, I think you've got a couple of things factoring in there. I think Mendez has looked really, really good his last couple of times out. He's looked, there was a time there where the velocity had dropped down a little bit, 92, 93. He was 90, 91. But the last couple of times out, he's been 92, 94, hitting some 95. So the velocity has really come back, and even gotten to a point that we hadn't seen earlier in the season with him. Joey, who had been steady Eddie, had a couple of rough outings. So, does he want to get Joey an extra day's rest and hold him back for a game on Sunday and start Mendez on Friday? Is that going to be the deciding factor? Or is he going to look and see, okay, we're playing Bethune-Cookman. Who out of these two guys, Vellini and Mendez, do we feel matches up best against that particular lineup? And even though they're both lefties and they both throw fastball, slider, curveball, changeup, all of their pitches profile differently. So Vellini's fastball profiles differently from Mendez's. Their curveballs profile differently. Their sliders, their changeups, they're all really different pitches. So just because they're both lefties doesn't mean that they both match up the same way against that Bethune-Cookman lineup. So I think that that's probably going to be one of the deciding factors, is which one of those two they think will match up better against Bethune-Cookman. And then I think Arnold goes Saturday in your second game in that regional, and then whoever doesn't go on Friday will go in your third game.
Okay. All right. So, hopefully Florida State takes the first game against Bethune-Cookman, and that would leave them with the winner of either North. It would be in Northeastern or Mississippi State. It's kind of pick your poison. Mississippi State likes to score runs in bunches. They have 97 home runs, which ties a school record, and their roster reads like the 1908 Chicago White Sox. Third baseman Ace Reese, Garrig Fry, Noah Sullivan, Bryce Chance, Gatlin Sanders. Sounds like he's a lawyer in the offseason, right? Gatlin Sanders. But they got great names on this team. And
Sawyer Reeves sounds like a TV character in a Netflix show.
Yeah, yes. And
watching Sawyer Reeves tries to solve the mystery of the.
That's right. But they got great names for their kids. Well done, moms and dads of the Mississippi State baseball team. And then you've got obviously Northeastern steals a ton of bases. Do you think Florida State matches up better against one of those teams in a winner's bracket game, or even for whatever?
I don't honestly. I haven't looked that deeply into them, so I don't know one way or the other which way you root in that situation. I'm sure that the coaching staff isn't going to mention anything about either one of those teams to this team. They want them focusing on Bethune-Cookman. So
right.
Obviously they're going to put stuff together on both teams because they've got to be able to turn around a scouting report very quickly after that game ends on Friday night, whichever way our game goes and whichever way the second game goes. So they've got to be able to turn around. So obviously they're looking at it. The team, though, isn't going to look at either one of those teams, I would think, until they know which one they're playing. So I don't, and you don't at this point know even what the potential matchup would be because nobody's announced starters. So,
right.
When you start talking about matchups with Mississippi State, Pico Cone is one of their weekend starters. Carson Ligon is another weekend starter. We've actually got a little history with Carson Ligon. He was starter in 23 and 24 at Miami. He was a weekend guy for them, so we faced him a couple of times. Then he hit the portal and ended up at Mississippi State. I don't know that really matters, but again, he's at least a familiar name. One of their bullpen arms, Chase Hungate, we saw when he was up at the University of Virginia when we played them in 2023. And his brother, Cade Hungate, was a Seminole back, I want to say 18, 19, 20 in that time frame before he transferred to Liberty and was their closer at Liberty. So, it's a couple familiar names that, again, I don't think that really means anything, but you don't know matchups right now on the next game until you at least know something about who's going to go on Friday for both of those teams.
Yeah. Yeah. We got to ask a question. Which team has in the regional poses the biggest threat to FSU? And I think it's kind of to be determined, right?
I think just going by the seedings, it's going to be either the 2 or the 3 seed, and it really depends on who comes out. You can always get a team that gets on a heater. And unfortunately, we've seen Mississippi State in Tallahassee a couple of times prior in regionals, and we have seen them get out of the regional and head to super regionals, 2007 and then again in 2018. So, when you looked at those two teams, when you looked at the 2018 Seminole team and the 2018 Mississippi State team, or the 2007 Seminole team and the 2007 Mississippi State team, Mississippi State was not the favored team in those two situations, but they're the ones that ended up winning it. So the biggest threat, I think you look at whoever wins that, Florida State, we assume if they beat Bethune-Cookman, whoever wins that first game between Mississippi State and Northeastern, that's going to be the team you've got to worry the most about, because you've got a double elimination format, and you've got to, if you go out there and beat them, you only have to win one more game, but they're in that same boat. So that's really kind of, it's so hard to tell without knowing who you're going to face potentially on the mound.
Yeah, well, it's going to be a fun weekend. Hopefully the weather will hold up. Now, if Florida State, they could play as few as 3 games and as many as 5. Is that correct, Lou?
Correct.
Okay, all right. So
yeah, if you keep winning, you play 3 games. If you lose 1, you're going to end up playing 5 games to win it. So,
okay. Well, let's hope.
Well, I take that back. If you lose the second game, if you win the first, lose the second, you play 4. But but you could play as many as 5. We know back in 2008 when we lost that opener to Bucknell, we had to win 4 straight to get out of the regional, and then that actually started a pretty historic run in regional play, because we didn't lose another regional game until 2014.
If it went to a 5th game, this is a question I don't have the answer to, so I'm legitimately asking. If it goes to a 5th game, would that be played on Monday?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it could extend as far as Monday. Okay.
Correct.
All right. Well, I don't want
to. And then the timing of that depends on what other regionals are playing and what TV wants to do as to when you actually play that one.
That's right. I do remember this last year when they were trying to determine first pitch times and all of that. So, all right. All right. Well, listen, I think it's going to be a fun weekend for Florida State baseball. Hopefully we have some good news to share with you next Wednesday. Now, if Florida State wins this regional, who is the 8th? They're going to go play the 8th seed if the 8th seed wins, right?
So the Tallahassee regional is paired with the Corvallis regional.
Okay, Oregon State.
The host and the 1 seed there. They've got TCU out there as the 2 seed, Southern Cal's the 3 seed, and St. Mary's is the 4 seed. So if somebody other than Oregon State wins that one, they would come to Tallahassee if we win our regional. If it's Oregon State winning that regional, the winner of the Tallahassee regional would go out to Corvallis.
All right. I just want to know who to pull for in that other regional so that the game stays here. If Florida State is lucky enough to advance on, which
nothing against Corvallis, Oregon. I'm sure it's lovely, but I've had one trip out west this year, and I'm fine with one trip out west this year.
And it would be a cool place to visit. I do think that, but the goal here is to win a World Series, and I like Florida State's chances much better playing the Super Regional in Tallahassee than Corvallis. But I did watch. I believe they were in the Super Regional last year. It looks like a really cool place, and of course, I've never been to Oregon. So, so it's going to be a fun weekend of baseball. We want to thank Seminole Dynasty Mike for becoming a new member of YouTube, and Delete Janny for the question, and Trenton. Trenton's kind of like us. Anything could happen. Expecting quick exit, deep run, you name it. He's all in between. But we hope we'll have Lulu back on here next Wednesday if the team is not traveling. Hopefully, we are preparing for TCU or one of the two other teams in the regional, not Oregon State. But it'll be a fun week of baseball. Bob's got everything covered at theosceola.com or floridastate.rivals.com. I was going to see if you guys want to get in some SEC meeting stuff, but I'm sure that's football, and it's a lot going on out there right now. But we'll save that for next week when we don't have as much baseball to talk about. But Bob does have previews written for each team at theosceola.com or floridastate.rivals.com. So please go check that out. We appreciate Lulu taking time out of his busy day. He's been willing to do this the last 4 weeks, and we certainly appreciate it, Lou, because you have a perspective on this team that we don't have because we don't see them near as much as you do. So we'd appreciate you coming on. But we will
happy to do it.
Yeah, we will, and we get to see we get to see the shirt. All your T-shirts are cool.
They're all good dogs, Brent.
Yep. So we appreciate that, and we will be back in touch. But if you can't make it to the game, obviously you'll hear Lou's familiar voice on the radio throughout the state of Florida calling the game.
And we added the announcer cam this past week at the ACC tournament, so you could tune in and look at my ugly mug and listen to me as well.
Now, is that a YouTube thing?
That is through the FSU baseball Facebook and Twitter pages.
Okay, all right. So if you want to watch Lou call the game while you watch the game, split screen. You have Lou, and what we need now, since they're doing that, Lou, what we really need is a dramatic finish in one of these games.
Exactly.
The championship game needs to be decided with a grand slam, with 2 outs and a 3-2 count.
I got my teeth cleaned today, and my hygienist, who's been cleaning my teeth for years, all of a sudden says, "Do you call the FSU baseball games?" I said, "Well, yeah, I do." And she's a Gator, but she saw the video that Chip Baker shot in the radio booth at the end of the Florida game when Lodis hit the grand slam. She goes, "That looks like Eric."
Yep.
And then the dentist comes in and she gives me the same thing. She's like, "Do you call the FSU?" So it was kind of funny. I'm like, "I've been coming here for years. You're just now getting that?"
Your cult following is just getting bigger. There's nothing wrong with that. All right. Well, listen, we will be back tomorrow at 3 with a Florida State football official visit weekend preview. It'll be me and Nick. It'll be taped. We're not going to go live for a variety of reasons. But that will go. We'll post that at 3 tomorrow. Obviously, the prospects at Florida State is going to bring in 6 of those 2026 prospects will all arrive sometime on Friday, probably between mid-morning and lunch. But we will have updates throughout the weekend. But we will have a preview with Nick and myself tomorrow at 3 p.m. We will not have a show Friday because obviously Florida State baseball team will be hitting the field with the first pitch at 3 o'clock against Bethune-Cookman. But appreciate everybody joining us, and we will see you tomorrow on Seminole Sidelines. Thanks, Eric. Thanks, Bob.
All right, guys.